Brilliance Audio presents My Autobiography of Carson McCullers, a Memoir, by Jenn Shapland, performed by the author. I wasn't expecting love letters. The paper was browned with age and wrinkled at the edges. Annemarie's handwriting filled the page, bearing hard to the right and often spilling back up the left-hand margin with last additions. I read through clear mylar sleeves, too intern nervous to remove the pages from their housings. April 10th, at night. Carson, child, my beloved, you know that leaving the day after tomorrow, feeling half afraid and proud, leaving behind me all I care for, once again, and a wave of love. I looked up at the rows of manuscript boxes that surrounded me, mind humming, face flushed. Did that mean what I thought it meant? What did she mean, love? Instinctively, I listened for anyone who might be coming. Hearing only the ticking of the sliding electric shelves, I read on. To Carson, Annemarie recalled, talking as we did, you and I, at that lunchtime. You remember, at the corner near the Bedford Hotel, with milk and bread and butter, ages ago. 4 years before I visited the Georgia archives housing Carson's transcribed therapy sessions, before I knew much more of Carson than her name, I was an intern at the Harry Ransom Center, a giant collection of writers' and artists' books and papers on the University of Texas campus in Austin. The gig was a kind of coup. It got me out of teaching for 2 years while I was a graduate student and gave me unfettered access to the papers and belongings of major writers. On each day of my 2 years at the center, I came into the shared intern office and answered queries from scholars about their research from a stack of mail by the door. Most were boring. About half of them were about either David Foster Wallace or Norman Mailer. My favorite find was a series of letters one of Mailer's mistresses had written him with the salutation, summing up my own feelings, "Dear American shithead." One day in early February 2012, a scholar wrote asking for letters between Annemarie Clarac Schwarzenbach, whose name was utterly unfamiliar, and Carson McCullers, whose book titles had always struck a chord with me. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, like Same. But I'd never gotten around to reading any. Books seem to find me when I'm ready for them, or else I abandon them. I took the freight elevator down to the icy basement manuscript room, pulled the correspondence folder, it was 29.1, I still recall, and started reading it right there in the stacks. Annemarie's language in her letters to Carson is intimate, suggestive, or I read it that way. You remember. I had received letters like these. I had written letters like these to the women I'd loved. It was very little to go on, and yet I felt an utter certainty. Carson McCullers had loved women, or at least this woman had loved her. Immediately, without articulating a reason, I wanted to know everything about them both. I brought the folder upstairs to my shelf in the intern office, hurried to my 3 o'clock reference desk shift, and started Googling. This was research, I rationalized, part of the job. Annemarie, I discovered, was a Swiss writer, photographer, silk heiress, and known lady killer who spent time in New York in the 1930s and early 40s. In folder 29.1, I found 8 letters from Annemarie to Carson, but none of Carson's replies. One has the heading, On the Congo River, September 1941. Another, On the Boat from Portuguese Angola to Lisbon. After counting the pages for the scholar and replying to his request, I took the folder downstairs and tucked it back into its box. Later, I would keep stacks of Carson's books and manuscripts on my shelf in the office, but at that moment, I didn't feel entitled to have these letters so nearby. I had, however, transcribed some of them into an email that I sent to myself. The scholar never ordered the scans.